Hi guys, welcome back to the shack. And after about a week of just working, and more working, I have finally got my new enclosure pretty much to a stopping point. I can't promise I won't be just doing a little bit more tweaking. I've got to go in and do my little jig for stove covers. But other than that, I've got it fully functional. I've got everything working. Got it on the shop air, and guys, not knocking any kind of air assist pump, but the shop air has taken it to a whole new level. So stick around for just a second, and I'm going to introduce you to my new creation, which I am kindly calling Enclosurezilla. So stick around. All right, guys, there it is. Enclosurezilla. The biggest enclosure I've ever seen. I also like to think it is probably one of the most advanced enclosures that I've ever seen. It could possibly be the best enclosure ever. I'm not sure, but I am really pleased with this thing. Really happy with it. It's been a lot of work. It's been months and months of trying to draw it out and figure out how to make it and just, working it out in my head. All right, guys, so if you've seen my other videos, most of you have seen the basic build out so far, so I'm not going to beat that up too much. If you haven't seen those videos and you want a little more information on some of the parts inside here, I'll put links to them down in the description and you can go find those videos. Also, if you see parts of the machine that you're interested in and that you want to try to build you an enclosure similar to this one, then I'll also have those parts listed down below and where you can find those. The major ones anyway, bolts, nuts, screws, that kind of thing. Use your own. But as far as the general large objects, one thing that everybody has been asking me, it's been a pretty common question, is what are you going to do about a window? What are you going to do about a window? Well, that was a bit of a dilemma. When I started this build, I took into consideration what size acrylic I was going to be able to find, and I generally get mine from J-Tech Photonics, and that's where I got this. This is two 12 by 24 panes. Okay, what I did when I started this build, I built it thinking that the two panes, 24 inches, without having to cut them or anything like that, I needed to make the body 48 inches wide, and that was kind of why I went that way with the size of the body. And as you can see right here, I don't know if you can even see it on camera this far out, but there's a seam right here where these two pieces butt up together. And how I accomplished that was I just made sure everything was square, made sure everything was tight. I did have to go back and put me some about 4.7 millimeter spacers on the edge here. I don't know if it was a variation in my build or a variation in the panes or what, but I had to tighten that up so that no light could come through these cracks. I had to put those little spacers in there and kind of press it together. But I was able to sand down some Luan and get them to the same thickness on both sides and got the crack completely sealed up. I mean, I didn't glue it or anything. I probably could have done that, but it's pressed up in there. It ain't going anywhere, and no light's getting out. So got that done. I did go with my spring style lift mechanism. I think you can probably maybe see it on this side, but I'll move you around in a minute and show you the springs. Same design I did on the other machines. These are just adjusted a little differently, and I did put me some bump stops up here just to make sure that when I open the lid, it doesn't go all the way over. So I'll open it up and show you. Now, that's where the lid stops at. And those springs, when it's in the utmost position like that, those springs are under pressure. You kind of have to play with the springs to tune it to have enough force to hold the door where it's at, but not enough to just rip the thing apart. So there's a balance there. The springs that I get from Tractor Supply. I couldn't tell you exactly what they are, but I'll show you on the other side here. I've used them on 3 different enclosures so far, and they work well for me. All right, so while I'm on this end of the enclosure, I'm going to point out 2 features for you. These are the 4 exhaust air intake ports that I'm running so far. The reason for me putting them back here in this back far corner over by my workstation, there's 2 reasons. One is there is no way you can get over in here and look down and get a direct exposure to the laser. The only exposure that you may get here is going to be maybe a 3-time reflected. I did consider putting some glass over the outside of it, but I think that that's probably not going to be needed because if you look in these holes, all you can see is that back wall back there. So there's no chance of any direct reflectivity coming out of it. You may see some blue light, but it's going to be reflecting off of that wood surface in the back, and we all know wood's not that reflective, so there shouldn't be enough light penetrating these holes to hurt anything. I did drill 4 of them. What I did is I generated some smoke on the outside over here and just kind of drilled the holes and just kept drilling them until I still had good positive pressure going in, because you want to make sure that you have positive pressure going in, because the minute that you get too much air intake and not enough fan, you're going to wind up, the smoke is going to start coming out of cracks. It's going to start trying to come out in other places. You want a little bit of suction coming in, not a lot. You don't want to restrict your fan, but you want a little. And I may even tune this a little further and go with maybe 1 or 2 more holes. I'm going to wait and see, because I do have some holes around the machine where the air assist line comes in, power wires come in, and I didn't seal those up. So I've got some other places that's pulling air. Of course, it's not completely sealed. There's no refrigerator seal on this thing. So there is going to be a small amount of air getting through around the door, around the bottom entry, and that kind of thing. So I didn't go overboard with the holes because I wanted to maintain that positive pressure on the air coming in. But this is the springs that I use, all right? This is just an eye bolt, and I've got double nuts on the back of it jammed up so that I can make sure they don't back off. You could also use locking nuts, but that's what I had in my box, so that's what I used. The objective is when this spring, when I lower this door, this spring's loaded from here to about there, okay? Now that spring actually starts pulling force down on the door. So as I lower the door, you can tell right here, there's still a little force on that door. So when I let go of it, it's gonna keep it closed. So that makes sure I got a good tight fit, good snug fit around the door. If you wanted to run a line of felt through there or something, you could actually secure that door to where it wouldn't leak as much air. But like I said, airflow is necessary. You just don't want too much. So I wound up changing my design down here. The magnets, I tried putting magnets, like cabinets magnets on the bottom door, and I kept kind of bumping it, and they weren't doing what I wanted them to. So I looked through my bin over here, and guys, I came up with a creation. I have, this is really high tech, so some of you guys may be a little impressed with this, but hang on, let me move the camera down so you can see it. All right, my high-tech solution to this door right here, and I'm gonna show you. Let me go ahead and get this one out on this side. The solution that I came up with was to drill a hole. Basically, I closed this, drilled a hole, went over in my bin over there, found myself a nice sized cotter pin, little short piece of chain. This is actually some chain off of the lights that are here in the shack that I didn't throw it away because these little chains come in handy for like making sure you can keep up with pins and stuff. And I just put me a screw there, and you slide that cotter pin in, and it's not going to come open. So that was a lot more secure. The pin doesn't easily slide out, so I don't have to worry about it just falling out at random. But if I need to open the bottom to, go in here and vacuum or work on anything, or if I'm doing a stove cover, because the way I'm going to be putting my stove covers in is sliding them under here because the stove covers are wider than the machine. So I'm going to slide them under here and then elevate them up to the engraving area. So I did manage to get that resolved. I'm really happy with this. I mean, it's not as quick as just being able to undo it, but it's a lot more secure. And for the few times that I'm actually going to go down there, it's not that much trouble. So now I'm going to move you over into the machine itself and the other side where the air assist is. All right, guys, so this is the same exact air regulator, gauge, and water separator that I have on the other two enclosures. Both the Monport and the X tool both have this same setup. I've got this little valve here. That is full air. Maybe you can hear it hissing. If I'm doing engraving, I can always kind of pull this down and lessen the flow to, just have a positive pressure in the nozzle, but not, cause a whole lot of charring. But I have found out, because I did my little sign back here, I don't get as much yellowing with this setup, even engraving, running air assist, as what you would think it would get. So I put all that. This is the control station, basically. This is my master power. That turns off everything. Laser, lift table, fan, everything. That switch will power up everything. Let me move my level before my machine homes. That machine will power up everything, including the machine, the lift bed. Everything is activated by that one switch, except for the LED lights, and those are going to stay on. So, another big question I've been getting: well, how level does the bed stay? Does the bed stay level when you're using it? So, let me send my machine over here to the top corner, and then once I do that, I will show you the bed situation here. But I'm going to park it up there in the top corner out of the way. I did add the drag chain, of course, to kind of clean it up, because this is the area where I'm going to be coming and going, and I wanted this thing to lay flat and out of the way so as to not get damaged or snag anything. All right, guys, I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see that bubble, but let me see if I can turn it another way and get it where you can see it. There's the bubble on the level. I can zoom you in a little bit, but I don't know how helpful that would be. Let me get it down where you can see this. People have been asking me, does it stay level, even with the lift bed? So just as a little quick demonstration, keep your eyes on the level as the bed goes down. I'm going to go down as far as I can where you can still see it. You may have to zoom in on your screen, guys. Hang on, let me see if I can zoom my camera in. All right, so maybe you can see it there. I'm going to try to go down a little further. All right, you can see, yeah. I can see it. I hope you can see it. But as you can see, the bubble is staying level. And it's actually a smooth ride, considering. Going back down. It's very consistent. I've been checking it with the machine by setting the clearance and just running the entire workspace, and it's pretty consistent all across the workspace. You can also tell by looking at the back edge where it lines up with the plywood around the frame there. So yes, it does maintain consistency. It does stay level. This guys, when I'm lowering it like this, this is not going to be for jigging stuff. This is not going to be for trying to engrave normally shaped objects. This is for those really tall objects. If I get an ammo can in, or if somebody brings me something that is, taller than, what you would normally do without extensions. And I don't have to have any extensions for this machine now. So there you go. For those of you that were asking me, does it stay level and how level is the bed? There you go. And I'll turn the level around a little there so you can see. It took me a while, guys. I spent a lot of time on the base of this machine making sure it was absolutely level. Like, I had lasers out, I had levels, I had 6-foot levels, I had 2-foot levels. It was just levels everywhere. All right, so I know a lot of you are wanting to know how the smoke management works. All right, how does the fumes, how does the smoke management work? Is it gonna contain the smoke? And for that, guys, there's only one way to do it. All right, guys, I'm gonna home the machine, and I've got me I'm gonna put me a circle here in the workspace. I'm gonna make that circle 100 by 100, and we're gonna try to stir up as much smoke as we can and see how my smoke management works in this enclosure. So let me see if I got that framed out properly. Now, let me put it at the bottom of this piece of wood so we have some more to play with here in a minute. All right. So here we go. Let's see how it does on the smoke management. think you can actually see the seam in the two pieces of acrylic right there. If you look real close, right in the center, that's where the two 24 by 12s go together. And if the light hits it just right, you can see the seam, but it really, from the front, it just looks like it's got a scratch on it. Luckily, those cuts were really smooth, thanks to JTech Photonics, because it would have really irritated me had these not been smooth enough to match up, and I'd have had to, you know, sand them or cut them or whatever. But luckily, they matched up perfectly. So that's a continual burn, 100 millimeters wide. You can see a little bit of smoke build up, and I still have pretty good positive pressure going into the hole, so I may end up adding another couple of smaller holes to my vent over here. I'm just going to give it a little while and see, but there is no smoke coming outside the enclosure. Like I said, that's part of maintaining that suction on the air intake. As long as you have a little bit of suction on your air intake, that means that it is not going to allow the smoke to come out. All right, up until this point, I haven't had the air assist on. So I'm going to start this. This is going to be about a third way down on the circle. I'm going to turn the air assist on just to show you the difference. And yes, that is a quiet air assist. That's the one thing I like about Shop Air, is no matter who makes the air assist pump, they all are a little noisy. So with the enclosure shut, as you can hear, and I don't have any kind of filter or anything on right now for the noise, it's really not noisy in here. Even though the 24 watt diode that sits on that Acer, the fan on it is a little loud, but when properly enclosed, it's not that loud. Now, the one thing that I did do by putting my vents on the end by my workstation, and I'm going to move over there so you can tell the difference, is if I get over here at my workstation, you can actually hear the machine running a little through the air holes. And if I'm over here designing a file and the machine's running and something hits or something, you know, starts going wrong, hopefully I'll be able to hear a difference in the tone of the machine and can glance over. But I'm running this burn at 110 millimeters a second at 100% output. So it's going to be a very deep, very black burn, especially with the air assist on. Okay guys, we're going to call that, I'm going to call that enough. I know a lot of you guys are probably going to be like, hey, I want plans for it. But guys, that's going to take me a while to be able to go over everything that I've done. And like I said, I'm not 100% sure there won't be changes made. I didn't glue any of the joints except for my little bracket that holds the air intake or the air assist valve. Everything has no glue. And the reason is because if I see a problem in the design or if I see a tweak that I need to make, I want to be able to take it apart, fix it, put it back together without having to destroy the wood that I purchased. I did have to buy 3 sheets of 3/4 inch cabinet grade plywood to build this guy, so it wasn't cheap. That stuff's $80 a sheet where I live, and so I'm going to give it a little while and make sure everything performs the way I want it to. But so far, I'm not seeing any problems or issues. Other than I wasn't a fan of having to do the duct system, but I also wasn't a fan of having to drill another hole all the way out to the outside of my shop. So I think this was a good compromise. I did allow for some extra room in here in case in the future someone sends me a machine that's even bigger. I've still got a little bit of room. I can actually relocate my switch if I need to, and I can extend the machine another 4 inches or so if it doesn't have the controller on the end like this. And I can also extend it probably about another 4 inches out this way if need to. But for now and for the foreseeable future, this is going to be the only long machine that I'm going to have, unless Acer or whoever decides to send me something that can outpower this guy that has the same features and works as well as this one does. I don't see it leaving the enclosure anytime soon. I still have my X-Tool D1. A lot of you have been on me about, you know, the X-Tool D1 Pro. And guys, I've still got it. It's still over there. It's still a workhorse, but it has its limitations with the 400 by 400 because of the, you know, it's a 20 watt, but it's still only a 400 by 400. This guy was needed for some jobs that I've had to turn down or get over here and improvise with, and setting my machine up on sawhorses and just doing weird stuff with a $1,000 machine just did not set well with me. So this is a lot better setup in my opinion. I have most of the conveniences of a CO2 as far as the bed size, shop air assist regulated so I can adjust it how I want. I now have a Z-axis in essence because I can lower and raise the machine at will. It's doing the job. I like it. I look forward to seeing what this guy's made of, putting it through the paces. I've done a lot of cutting with it so far, and it's doing really, really well. Since adding the shop air, the kerf has gotten a lot thinner, it appears, or at least it looks that way. It may just be because there's a lot less scorching. But when it's cutting stuff out now, it almost looks like it's not cutting it because you can't see the line. That's really awesome. So far, everything's working like it's supposed to. So the next video you see, guys, hopefully it will be of me creating something. I did get me a couple of shelves put up under here for some wood storage. I've got about 6 or 7 more sheets of Luan I've got to cut up tomorrow and put under here. And I'm trying to come up with a project that I can do with the big machine. But I do have a couple of glass things over here that I can do in which I can use the bed to lower it. Also, one more thing that you've got to think of with this bed is rotary. If I hook a rotary to this guy, now I can lower the bed without having to add any leg extensions. And no matter how big the tumbler or whatever it is, I can get it in here. One thing that I had problems with before is, you know, doing like rolling pins. I've got some local people that are asking me about baseball bats. I had some folks today, baseball gloves, customizing baseball gloves with the kid's name. I'm afraid I have messed up, and I have said, yes, I can do it to a lady. And I know that as soon as she goes back and she tells the rest of the folks on the Little League team or the junior varsity or whatever team it is that, hey, yeah, I got this done over here, I'm going to have to get all of my guys that cover my overflow to start doing baseball gloves, because that's going to be a quick, easy burn that, as far as I know, nobody around does. So I'm going to be trying to get some baseball bats, setting up a rotary, doing a few of those in here, and just whatever I can think of. So if you got any ideas for jobs that you want to see how this setup can benefit you, and you got one of those jobs that you think would be good for it, drop it in the comments, let me know, and we'll try to line it up for a video and see how well it does. And y'all help me test it, guys, because I built this thinking that this would be the enclosure to beat all other enclosures, and I think it is. So help prove me wrong, guys. But if you haven't already, guys, hit the subscribe button, like, follow, bell, whatever. And also a reminder to you guys that aren't familiar, and some of the other guys that watch the channel can tell you about this. Myself and Steve from over at Ventari's Workshop, we do a Sunday night live at 7 p.m. Central, and there's an event out there right now on my channel that we're going to be discussing lasers, and I'm sure that this machine is going to be the topic of discussion, this enclosure. But we also, myself and Steve both, are negotiating some other machines that we may be bringing into the fold and trying out for you guys. So if you haven't already liked my channel, subscribe to my channel, or if you have, just go over to Steve's and hit him up, give him a thumbs up, give him a subscribe, and then come sit with us and hang out with us Sunday night, and it'll be all about lasers. There may be a little discussion about, you know, Steve in the snow and me in the 80 degree weather. But for the most part, guys, we're there to answer questions. We're there to try to help explain things and make you enjoy your hobby more than you do today, and try to take some of that frustration away that comes with not knowing or not understanding how things work. So Steve's more of the technical guy. I'm more of the engineering, making things work with what you got kind of guy. But between the two of us, if we can't fix it, you probably got some pretty serious problems. So come check us out, and go ahead and let us know you're coming by hitting that button, and we'll see you Sunday. Stay safe and have a good day.